ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, this week the weather is quite changeable. We're tracking a cooler southerly coming into New Zealand, cooler winds and rain coming back into Australia, and we're tracking easterlies around the tropics where, by the way, a possible tropical cyclone is likely next week. We will have some information on that at the end of this broadcast. But let's get into the setup for this week. And at the moment, there is a cooler southerly coming through for the South Island and the lower North Island. We've got some very heavy rain moving through the Wellington area. Met Service has issued a rain warning in that region. And then over in Australia, cooler winds blowing through that eastern side. I was watching Bathurst yesterday in New South Wales. Was only 19 degrees. That was with an easterly blowing, a few showers around the Blue Mountains, but definitely cooler along that eastern side. And up in the tropics, the easterlies are blowing along, and that area of concern, that tropical area of concern up here around the Solomon Sea and Coral Sea area. So we'll be focusing on that, like I say, at the end of this. So let's get into the actual forecast now. So for New Zealand today, that colder southerly, much colder in the South Island, single-digit temperatures this morning in the south, but it was 21 degrees around Napier, Bay of Plenty, Auckland, Whangarei. Very warm weather, and that warm weather is sticking around still because that cooler change, it only moves partially into the North Island, but the northerly flow coming down also dominates. So it's a little bit of a convergent zone, and that's why we're seeing some heavy rainfall totals around Wellington, and that's exactly what we see here on this map, potentially getting up to around 100 millimetres of rain over the next 24 hours. There's been some very heavy rain this morning, causing some localised floods, and as I say, Met Service does have a heavy rainfall warning out. But this is the upper South Island, lower North Island. Mostly dry in the south, mostly dry up here in the north. So here's the forecast for Tuesday. We've got that convergent zone. Northerlies coming down from the north, southerlies coming up from the south, and that rain band is stuck in the middle over Wellington area. Now that southerly flow actually fades out a fair bit on Tuesday, but the cooler air left behind it is still there, and this system is sort of stuck in the middle where that southerly was. It should start to fade away tomorrow though, and in fact some of you might even get northerlies coming back, but it won't be a very warm one. The winds coming through here, around the north I should say, will be warm. There's still that humid northerly flow, but south of that front it will be cooler, and in fact inland areas around Otago, northern Southland, the high country of Canterbury might even see a frost tonight. So welcome to summer. Okay, let's move through into Wednesday, and speaking of cooler winds, it remains cooler around the eastern side. Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, all getting a bit of a temperature drop. Adelaide as well, nothing too warm there, but it should be fairly hot over in Perth. A few downpours in New Zealand, nothing too significant there though, just that's that front basically falling apart as it moves through and northwards. On Thursday, even drier around New Zealand, maybe a couple of afternoon downpours just bubbling up with the afternoon heat, and a new low pressure zone forms over Sydney, bringing more rain and windy conditions to the south here with potentially gale force easterlies off the sea. Now by Friday, those winds turn more southeasterly, drives in rain to Sydney, but later in the day, that rain starts to move offshore and it moves in towards New Zealand. Once again, western rain coming back in again, showers for the north, mostly dry and still very warm in northern New Zealand. You're not really impacted by that southerly coming in this week. And on Saturday, well, we've still got a very similar setup to how this week begins. We've got high pressure building to the south, high pressure up here to the north, and wet weather stuck in the middle with this system here wanting to move over towards us. So we talked about this potential tropical cyclone. We've got low pressure up here in the Coral Sea area, and we've got very powerful high pressure down in the Southern Ocean. Let's take a look at next week. This is next Tuesday, and what this shows is a tropical cyclone. Whether it happens or not, that's still yet to be locked in. This is over a week away, so there could be a little bit of change between now and then, but the conditions up here are perfect for a tropical cyclone. The sea is warmer than average. There's not a lot of high pressure around up here. It's mostly down to the south. So this system, if it does form the way the models are now starting to show, which is why we're talking about it, because many of you are now seeing it on the models, but this storm's likely to be tracking towards Vanuatu, New Caledonia. Those are the two places at highest risk right now, and it could come down to the New Zealand area. The high pressure belt will be pushing against it. But as you can see, there's a window here between these two highs, and that's the area, the path of least resistance. That's what low pressure zone's like. And it might end up dropping between the two. Now remember, these highs are tracking from west to east. So where that gap will be, by the time it gets closer to New Zealand, that is still not locked in. And because of that, this storm could end up being stuck in the tropics and fall apart up there. It might come down and disappear off to the southeast, or it could actually directly come into New Zealand. So it's worth monitoring, but don't have to raise the alarm bells yet. It is still too early. The storm hasn't even formed yet, but the long-range modelling is starting to show it. So we'll keep you up to date this week, and we'll see where it goes, if it goes anywhere at all. That is all from me. Have a great week. We'll see you again on Tuesday.